All right, today we are diving into an absolute giant of Western thought, a book that has shaped everything for over 2,000 years, Plato's Republic. And I get it, a 2,400-year-old book about politics sounds kind of dense, right? Maybe even a little irrelevant. But what if I told you that what you think this book is about is almost completely wrong? Because here's the big secret, the thing most people miss. At its heart, the Republic is not really about politics at all. What it really is a guide for your inner life. It's a manual for understanding your own mind and achieving a sense of internal balance. And that, well, that's a project that never, ever goes out of style. Okay, so let's get into the first big idea. Plato argues that justice doesn't start in a courtroom or in government. Nope, it starts inside you. He says our soul, or, our psyche, is split into three parts. First, you've got reason, the part that thinks and calculates and seeks truth. Then there's emotion, which he calls the spirited part. That's your sense of honor, courage, and righteous anger. And finally, there's desire. All our appetites for food, drink, money, sex, the whole shebang. And this three-part idea, it's basically the foundation for centuries of psychology. So this brings us to his totally game-changing definition of justice. For Plato, justice isn't about laws or punishment. It's a state of inner harmony. It's what happens when your reason is in the driver's seat, steering your emotions and telling your desires when to sit down and be quiet. It's about having a well-ordered soul. And once you really get that idea, that justice is inner balance, Plato makes his most brilliant move. He says, okay, what if we took that blueprint for a just person and used it to build an entire city? So, a just person, right? They're balanced. The reason is in charge, so they think clearly. Their emotions give them courage, but don't control them. Their desires are met, but don't lead to ruin. It's an inner system that just works. Which brings us to the core question of the whole book. If that's what a healthy individual looks like on the inside, how on earth do you build a whole society that works the same way? And boom, here's the answer. This is the big aha moment. He maps the soul directly onto a city. The soul's reason becomes the city's rulers, the wise philosophers. The soul's emotion becomes the guardians, the brave soldiers. And the soul's desire becomes the producers, the farmers and craftsmen. Justice in the city is the same as in the person, each part doing its job and not meddling with the others. Now, if you follow this logic to its absolute conclusion, and believe me, Plato does, you end up in some, well, let's just say some pretty shocking and controversial territory. He drops three absolute bombshells. First, for the top two classes, total gender equality. Women can be rulers, they can be warriors, unheard of in 380 BC. Second, for those same classes, he gets rid of the traditional family. Why? To stamp out any chance of nepotism or corruption. And third, the most famous one of all, the people who know the most, the philosophers, must be forced to rule. And this quote just says it all. Plato's point is that the only people you can trust with power are the people who don't actually want it. The people who are seeking truth, not power for its own sake, they're the only ones who can resist its temptations. But Plato wasn't just some dreamer drawing up a perfect society. He was also a fierce critic of the real world. And he laid out this fascinating and frankly chilling theory about how even the best societies are doomed to fall apart. He called it the slippery slope. You start with the ideal state, an aristocracy, or rule by the best. That decays into a timocracy run by honor-obsessed warriors. Then that gives way to an oligarchy, rule by the rich. The massive inequality eventually leads to a revolution and democracy, rule by the people. But for Plato, this was the most unstable and dangerous stage of all, the last stop right before tyranny. Now, we have to be really clear here. Plato wasn't against freedom, but he had personally watched his mentor, Socrates, be executed by a democratic vote. So his big fear was that too much freedom without wisdom and self-control just turns into chaos. And when everyone is scared and things are chaotic, they look for a strong man to fix it all, and they willingly hand over power to a tyrant. So how are we supposed to read this book today? Well, there are two huge camps. On one side, you have people like the philosopher Karl Popper, who called it a blueprint for totalitarianism. He said Plato's state crushes individual freedom for the sake of the group. But on the other side, thinkers like Leo Strauss say that's a total misreading. They argue the whole book is ironic, that Plato made the perfect city so impossible to actually build, to prove that pure philosophy and messy real-world politics can never truly mix.
And honestly, the fact that we're still having this intense debate is exactly why The Republic is so important. It's not a book with easy answers. It's a book that makes you wrestle with the biggest, hardest questions there are.
These questions are just as urgent now as they were then. What is justice, really? Who should we trust with power? Is there such a thing as absolute truth? What is education even for? The point of reading The Republic isn't to agree with Plato's answers, but to see just how vital it is to ask these questions for ourselves. And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. This book is not a political instruction manual. It's a demonstration of a method. It's a masterclass in how to think and how to question everything, the Socratic method in action. So don't read The Republic to agree with Plato. Read it to learn how to think like Socrates. And that leaves us with one final question for you to take away. After all this, what certainty in your own life might be worth questioning?